Hello, and welcome to Voices in Education. I am your host, Natasha Lee. Hello and welcome. Welcome to another live, an exciting afternoon or perhaps evening, wherever you're tuned in from. But it's one that we're going to celebrate and talk about for a long time. Again, I am Natasha Lee, but today I have joining me is
Hello, guys. Ruren is here today again. We are back together doing something special, I would say. The Reggae Girls have been awesome with what they were doing in the World Cup just now. So, we need to big them up on their performances.
awesome. Yes. So it's for me like congratulations to the Reggae Girls on making us so very proud and for, just playing so well in the World Cup. In the World Cup, I know, just today they lost to Colombia, but we're still proud. They're definitely history makers. And so we're celebrating the Reggae Girls this afternoon or this evening, wherever you're tuned in from. And I just want you to place that in the live chat. And also, We want to talk about this in the context of sports and education. How is it that we're preparing students to occupy these spaces and places in the in like sporting
Yeah, in
teams
the
and
sporting
sporting
sphere. Yeah.
events in the sporting world. And so we would like to hear from you regarding that, because the normal way or things are that we're so focused on those traditional career paths. So for example, medicine, law, and we're not really capitalizing on the what I'll term non-traditional aspects in quotation marks. So would love to hear from you. And so right now we're going to go back to some music, and I'll give you the opportunity to share this live with friends and family members and encourage them to come on over and be a part of the conversation. Right?
Yes, we'd love to hear from you guys. Whenever people have information to share, it is always good to listen because that's how we learn, and we want to learn from you today. So just hit us up on the chat, or you could even call it so that we could have a conversation on the great feat that was achieved by the Reggae Girls, and also how sports and education has that unique connection.
Definitely, there's a tie there in terms of sports and connection and education, as you mentioned regarding that connection. So it's back to some music. While I ask you to share it like food, right now share it like ackee and saltfish.
Right. No, ackee and saltfish. Here it goes. Right, ackee and saltfish. Dumpling, yellow yam.
Dumpling and green banana.
Green banana. Is a good one. Yeah. All right. See you later.
Hello and welcome if you're just tuning in, where we want to have a conversation about the Reggae Girls. But first, we started out by congratulating them on this historic achievement. And so we want to continue with a conversation about sports and education in the context of what is happening right now with our Reggae Girls. So if you're just tuned in, welcome. Please remember to give this video a like, share with your friends and family members, and encourage them to come on over and be a part of this Voices in Education community. I am not alone this afternoon. I am in the
People,
studio
I'm in the
with,
building. I'm in the building. We're back at it again.
oh,
And
definitely.
I just want you to, whenever you see this video, just think what this means to you. The girls doing so well in the World Cup. I want you to just put that in the chat. Feel free to call us and talk with us so that we can hear hear how you express yourself as it relates to this major achievement.
Definitely. So, how do you feel just having, witness or experiencing this from this kind of achievement from our Reggae Girls? How do you feel about that?
Well, I feel really elated. I'm really happy about it. To be honest, I am one of the waganists, I would say, because I haven't been following the Reggae Girls right throughout. But whenever Jamaicans are doing or whenever they're excelling at anything, I think it's kind of contagious where I am just going to associate myself with that. And that's what I did with these Reggae Girls. I know that they've had their challenges, but they have risen above that and they have done us really proud and done really well.
Definitely. So for me, it's just, anything Jamaica, it's just me. I am just proud to be Jamaican. I think I am very patriotic in that regard. And so win, lose, or draw, still Jamaican.
People here making it sound like she always be on the boat. She was always on the boat. Do you think she was? Were you always on the Reggae Girls
Always,
boat?
always. I might like similar to you, I might not know all the happenings in terms of, what is happening in the world of football, as we call it. But in the context of country and representation, I am always big for that. I am just always big for that. Right now, if I could play that busy signal song, I would play
Which busy signal song you would play right now?
it. I don't remember the title. Jamaica love. I wanna feel Jamaica love. Everybody wanna visit Jamaica. That
Jamaica.
song.
Yeah, that's
That's
a song.
that's
I
a
know
nice
it's
one.
either. It's a really good song. Yeah.
Yeah. So really, but so we're very, very proud of the Reggae Girls. We're very, very proud, and we just want to say congratulations to the Reggae Girls right here from our Voices in Education community. And this is a good opportunity, as I mentioned earlier, to just connect their performance with, sports and education, because that is important. And as I suggested or mentioned earlier, in the context of education, based on my experience, because I can speak from my experience, it appears that as schools, we're not really preparing students to, I guess, utilize or to make use of these opportunities, not the word, but it's just not coming right now. But we're not really preparing students adequately for these opportunities because the focus is so much
Solely
on,
academics, like
well,
traditional
traditional,
academics,
yeah,
like
in the
sitting down,
sense.
math, English,
And
those.
it's not even so much the math and the English, but so much focused on those traditional careers.
Well, for sure. Yeah, we are pretty much placed in a situation where you're prepared to go. Teachers might come to your classroom and ask you what you want to become, and you'll say a lawyer, doctor, teacher. But how many persons would actually say, I want to become a professional soccer player or football player, as we would say it in Jamaica? I don't think many. persons would. And we have a lot of those professions that are popping up around, and I don't think the school system is properly preparing students for those opportunities. And I would add this as well. This not all the time the school caters for the interests of the students, and if students aren't interested in what you're teaching or in education, then it's not something that they're going to be doing good at.
Definitely. And on that point of interest, like I went to a very academic high school. So I can recall in my time, I don't know if that has changed, one of those so-called traditional high schools in Jamaica. And so in my time, for example, we did not have like agriculture as a subject, but other schools were doing it. So it was a very much, those academic based subject areas that will, in quotation marks, propel you into one of those traditional career fields. But with the context now changing, and we're specifically focused here on sports in the context of education, what can we do as a school or as Jamaicans in terms of education context to better prepare students for the future in, given all that is happening in the world. Like, I mean, YouTube is another story that we have had
Yeah, social
conversations
media.
about,
Yeah.
but in the context now of sports, what can we do to prepare these students for those realities if they're interested in them?
Well, for me, I think just give them the necessary tools for them to be functional. Students should be able to represent themselves see themselves as a brand first of all, because that's where I think it starts. You see yourself as a brand, and you're going to represent your brand in the best way going forward. So I'm talking about like doing interviews, making your social media posts, because once you make that post, it's representing you, and that goes global. So things like those, persons who are giving them contracts or recruiting them might visit your Facebook or your Instagram page and see the things that you're interested in, and that could be the deal breaker for you. So you want to be representing yourself in the best possible way.
I guess in a professional manner.
Professional, right? Yeah.
And like at the school level, right? Like from the institution where I have my experience in terms of, teaching or teaching students, I I have students who are very academically inclined. Some students who were more, sports based, but not necessarily academically driven. And so it would be important for us to, build a program around that based on their interests. And that's a key word that you mentioned earlier in terms of interest, because at some point it's more like we're forcing them to learn something that they're not interested in. And
Yeah.
so that's where that mental block you'll find. And so if we align our academic programming with students' interests, I feel that we can get better results.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So I think what you're saying is that, they should see whatever they're doing as being relevant to what they want to become. So, once they can see that alignment, I'm sure that they will, put their all into whatever they're doing. If it is sports, if it is playing it's soccer, for example, since that's what we're talking about mainly here today, then they will put their all and, put the necessary stuff around that would help them to be the best soccer player on and off the field. So, as I was saying before, being able to represent yourself professionally.
Right. So that is definitely important. And so with that professionalism, I am saying, or as you mentioned, A student should leave the high school context, knowing how to function in that particular, field. And guys, or wherever you're tuned in from, if you're not tuned in from Jamaica, or if you don't understand the Jamaican context, in terms of sports, especially track and field, Jamaica has, I would say, a very strong sport program when it comes on to champs. At the individual school level, it varies because,
Yes, it does.
schools with different resources. So we're thinking about that. So some students are not able to capitalize. I think that was the word I was looking for earlier. Some students are not able to capitalize on those opportunities because some schools just don't have the resources.
Resources, yeah.
And so that's another issue in
That's
terms of
amazing. Yeah.
equity. Like, how is it that we're ensuring that students have access, to resources? In some cases, equality, but it's equity, because when you think about Jamaica, and although there is the notion that schools are not, we don't stream students who are going into high schools. That context seemed to still be there, because from my experience at the institution that I was teaching, we tend to get the students who are, some students, not all of them, but some students who are not able to read, for example. And so when we think about the resources that we have versus the resources that, traditional high schools tend to have, and that might be by way of their, old boys or
Student
girls association,
associations, yeah.
right? So the alumni association. And, some schools just don't have that strong
Yeah.
foundation or support
Yeah.
in terms of, helping students to navigate, the high school context and to capitalize on these opportunities.
Yeah, and just to add to what you're saying, with those schools with those strong past students association, um, they tend to do well, and people who are in the business world, they look at first the schools that are doing well and they support them. So the good schools have a great deal of support from different facets, and those supports help them to keep their program being strong and supporting students. Well, when you're not in that type of school, then it becomes a whole lot harder for you to achieve what you set your mind out to.
That is so true, because and this is where you're seeing like privilege breeding, breeding privilege. Like, how is it that we're going to help society if we're just allocating resources, all our attention to just one particular group? Where is the equity? And so that is important. And I just missed a part. Okay. Some schools, they don't even have like a field, like a
Playing
playing
field,
field,
yeah.
like just for football, schoolboy football. They have to be, going elsewhere, just to have a proper field to play on. So that's like
Well,
basic, basic.
that's true, and I might add not just a proper field for soccer or football, but just a proper field for anything at all. Track and field, just not a proper field. But as Jamaicans, we're so blessed, we're so talented, we are so sport
And
inclined.
resilient.
Yes, definitely. So that we are able to rise above these adversities and produce results like the Reggae Girls here. So this is such a good thing that they have done, and they should be lauded for their excellent performance.
Definitely. And this is history. I don't know. It's history just
Yes, it is history. Yeah.
in its entirety, because the reggae boys have
Yes. So
never done this.
yeah,
So
they
this is like
first
history.
team,
First
first team to
team,
make it to the round of 16,
16.
regardless of gender. So that's awesome.
This is
And it's
awesome.
the first team from the Caribbean as well to get that far. And
Wow, women
we
empowerment.
definitely. And how many persons would have bet that Jamaica's Reggae Girls would do this? Yeah, whenever I guess once you look on that draw that they got for the World Cup too, you'd probably never ever see
Yes,
them coming
because
out of that group.
in a group with France,
Brazil
Brazil,
and Panama,
Panama, that was a tough
tough group.
group.
Yeah,
And that's it. Like I remember, I don't know, probably the captain, she was talking, and she mentioned that, they underestimated us. Probably either the captain or the goalkeeper. And they were saying, oh, they underestimated us. And that's something too that we should learn,
yes,
lessons. And
that's an
sometimes
important lesson. Yeah,
we look at people and we just underestimate their capabilities.
that's true. How many of us have underestimated a student who decides that soccer
Sports,
or sports is the way going forward, and
definitely.
have come to see that person
Just being very
being really
successful.
successful at it. So, as we were saying to her about it earlier, it's good for us to support them as educators, to support the dreams that kids have,
Yeah,
because we
definitely.
know we're not sure where that dream will take them. So it's for me too. In that regard, it's about a balance. So sports cannot be isolated from education, I would say. So it's about striking up that balance that works for that individual. Yeah, I guess you'll have to have peers where, if a student isn't so strong academically, they should be able to function in this world of technology. And
Right. Well, not necessarily technology, but just essential programming. So if it is like essential math, English, whatever it is
and
for the
communication
student.
skills, that's what I would say.
And
Like oral, at least oral communication.
well, it all depends because I guess that develops over time, right? In terms of communication there. But I am saying like the emphasis should be on ensuring that students are able to function,
In
right, in
society.
society,
Yeah, well, that's true.
right? And so if it is that we're failing them at the school level, it means that eventually we're going to have a failed society where we're going to have more social problems or issues than anything else because we're not really preparing them to go out there and be productive citizens based on their interests. And so that is important. I mean, some students might have some interests that, might be,
Yeah, I don't think probably
but
it's
in
not gonna
terms
be.
of the positive, sense, we need to ensure that we're doing that. So if it is that a student is not able to do the C-sec mathematics, that is okay. Let us prepare them so that if they get a check later on when they're doing their sports, they can say, okay, I know that X amount of money is for that. So when I do the subtraction, I know what I should have.
Yeah,
So you prevent them from being, you know, robbed, for
well, targeted
example,
as well.
so they understand. So that's the kind of preparation I'm thinking. Like, yes, the English, essential English, how to express themselves, how to communicate. And, professional athletes, for the most part, they tend to have a team, like, a management team. So that will help them in
Yeah,
terms of that too, the communication aspect. And just for them to understand too, just basic legal stuff. Don't go and sign a contract that you do not understand without a lawyer. Don't let anybody tell you that, okay, this is what is in the contract, and then you go and sign without
yeah.
really understanding.
Are scrutinizing it properly. Because if
Exactly.
you're given a contract, I guess you'll have to be given. Well, you should be given enough time to go through it so that you can make an informed
And
decision.
sometimes by ourselves, we can't do that.
Can't.
Even a
Yes,
doctor,
necessary
you need
support.
that legal advice. And so we need to encourage them in that sense to say, okay, it's okay to get help. You don't need to take on this because taking on this can have other impact, on you as a person. And so that is important. As you mentioned, like the professional athlete, it's your brand. You're representing your brand. And so just understanding, even as you mentioned earlier, how to navigate social media, just having, good etiquette in terms, I believe they probably call it
Netiquette,
netiquette.
yeah.
Yes. And so just doing that. And so that is important. So these are some of the things I would like to see schools start doing to prepare students, for the different pathways that sports is pretty much opening up now. And I feel like years ago it wasn't so lucrative in terms of
Well,
a career path.
I can tell you about years ago because I consider myself to be athletic. So like my primary school exposed me to soccer, track and field, and cricket as well. And I continued doing those sports at a high school. But for me, the sports was a good way just to, calm myself down. I find out that I found out about myself that um, doing sports complemented my academics very well. So it helps me to remember stuff better. So it's kind of strange to see how things have gone like 360 where you can get actually a career in sports and you need the academics to complement that role
Well,
that you're going to take on or that occupation that you're going
all
to do.
right, definitely true. And I want to point out just probably two aspects. So you
Okay.
have some students who, I guess perhaps like you then, they're able to do sports and balance that with their academics. In
Yeah.
Jamaica, I believe from what I have seen, there's a space for those students. So those students, they will get scholarships to go overseas, and that's another story there.
Yeah.
They'll get those scholarships to go to universities, and I guess they have the education
To support
somewhere
that. Yeah.
there to support that. But then you have some students with their God-given talent
Talents.
in terms of, just being very good at what they do, but might not necessarily be that strong. So for them, college is not for them,
Not for them.
right? So what I am saying is not that these students have failed. Probably university and colleges are not for everyone, because these students, they have their natural abilities that can allow them to have, a very good life where they can contribute positively to nation building, to the country. Because some of these athletes are, sporting personalities, they have foundations, they give back to
Yeah.
communities, to their country, to nation building. So my thing is, and as you have been saying too, we need to just understand that, one size does not fit all.
Yeah. True.
And,
Diversity and all that.
we need to ensure that we are creating these opportunities for students. So in terms of our programming, so you might have some students who might just be going to PE, essential math, essential English, whatever they need to function, because they might have, based on what you have seen and based on their interests, this is what they want. They might do little integrated science, but they might not be interested in biophysics and chemistry, and that is
Yeah.
okay. They might not be interested in art. They might not be interested in welding. That is
Yeah.
okay. But you have some schools, it's like you're forced to go into what they call option areas.
Yeah.
And if you're not in certain class, you don't get to do certain subjects.
Yeah. That's true.
And I'm like, this is so wrong. This is so wrong. This is so wrong. And I don't know. So you're forced to go to, I know, like some schools, just this, like while I was in high school, and based on connections with people, some schools might have like general science, business, like you're going 10 business, 10
Yeah.
science.
Well, high
What?
school was like that for me. You have the arts, the sciences, business. We had technical. I think those
I
were the
know.
options.
But that
Yeah.
is so crazy. And I'm like, what if you claim that I am so brilliant? So you're going to send me to 10 science and I want to go to 10 business.
Yeah,
That is like
and that can
that's
be deflating and damaging for that student because you're not able to do what you are interested in and what you want to do. I know it's difficult for them to come up with a system where all the students get to do what they want to do.
why not?
I think it's going to be difficult
In terms
because
of
of the why.
subjects,
Yes. So, but the option should be there. So, put
ma-
place the ball in the students' courts. If
this is
you're
it.
doing well at this and you want to do this, then they should be given the
But my
opportunity.
thing is, if you have, say, grade 10s, right, and it is option time, everybody should be getting option at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So if you figure out that based on the selection, you have X amount going to science, say you have 400 going to science, and you have one teacher, then it means that you need to get some more science teachers, which is problematic right now
That's
in
what I'm
Jamaica.
saying.
But this has been something from the past. And so it is important for us to just understand those contexts. And I'm not saying because you have schools in Jamaica that allow students to select their options. Don't get me wrong. But I am saying for some, based on experience, some schools, you have the bright students, the so-called bright students, they go into science, and then you have business and you just stream them out,
Oh well, yeah, that's for sure. So I guess what you're really saying is that you don't have any choice. The school places you in a
in a
particular
in a
option
in a
here.
particular group, and then you select the subject from that group. Because if you're not so academically inclined, then science is not for you. Science is for the brightest of them all.
Oh well, it's a tough system because I think the staffing, as you mentioned too, is rigid. I don't think
I don't blame it on the staffing because
I
this
would say
has been
it's
from my
rigid.
days going to high school. And I don't think Jamaica was having such issues then. There's actually a lot of things that to leave this for another live. Teachers who screen students out of doing CC. If parents are willing to pay the money, like how subject, you don't support them to do the subject. So I have mixed feelings about that.
Well, yes, I agree with you. But for me, it's all about evaluation and communicating with that student right through the time period that teacher has that particular student dealing with. Well, as you say, that is for another discussion. So we are going to take that one up because that one seemed really, really interested. We're going to have to meet up again and look at that one.
Definitely, but I am just cognizant of the time here. So, in terms of, I guess, just to wrap things up, it is the idea that, schools and probably the Ministry of Education need to look at this context of education. What is the purpose of education, really? How are we preparing students for the future? Because that is important. And just look at different aspects because the whole landscape is changing now in terms of career paths. Like YouTube has opened up so much, social media in
Yes.
general, right? And so we need to now think about these non-traditional career
Yeah,
paths in
real.
terms of how we can prepare students for these. And your natural talent can be monetized right now on any social media platform. So if you're good at drawing, that is something you can do, dramatizing, whatever.
Yes.
Even if you're an athlete, yes, you can bring it there. So we have seen so much, and I believe that it is time for schools to start look at the students that they're getting and try to align their academic programming with students' interest.
Okay. Well, I totally agree with with what you're saying. We need to ensure that students are, engaged when they are in schools. They're getting things that they're interested in so that they can, do their best. But I am thinking about what you said just now, and you said change, and I'm saying, where would we accommodate this change in the system? I am thinking to myself when you were talking that maybe, for example, a phys ed, or as we would also say, physical education class would be a good place to introduce some of these things. I've had a little experience with physical education, and I was just reflecting while Natasha was speaking. And one of the tasks that kids have to do now for CXC exams is that they have to organize a tournament. So I am thinking that a tournament, when they organize the tournament, they have to be their teams, have their managers, find sponsorship, and so on. So I'm thinking that's not a bad place to inject some of what we're talking about in terms of, players are there, that we could include like media houses too as a part of that. So people will have to do interviews, people will have to speak, people have to make sure that they're behaving themselves in a particular way that is professional, so that they have that experience. Because sometimes we don't do well at things because we don't have that prior experience. Sometimes we know that we're good in sports, we can play soccer very well, but we have never thought about as another person coming over to us and say, how did you get your skills to that level that you have them now? Basic questions. How is your school treating you in terms of sports? You're representing your school. Things like those. Just questions that would help you as an athlete to do better whenever you get into the real world, I would say, or into the competitions that would be outside of your school. So I'm thinking that's not a bad place to get those, well, some of the changes done, because at least in persons who choose physical education as an option, I would say would have certain levels of interest in sports.
Yeah, that's a good point there. But one thing that I would say is that I don't feel, and this is something that I've never really experienced in a school in Jamaica, that research is done. And so research is being done. And so that for me is important.
Research in what sense? I wanted to elaborate a little bit more on
So
that
it's
aspect.
just in terms of programming that you have. So with students, and there are going to be ethics around conducting research, but in terms of how you're doing the academic program. So even when your grade 11s are leaving, what are you doing? I'm not sure if that would be a responsibility of the Ministry of Education or the chairman in terms of the board, the school board, not necessarily the chairman, but the school board. And so we don't have a lot of, well, at least if the research is being done, it's not being shared in terms of the findings based on,
Okay, yeah.
my experience back in Jamaica, they're teaching. And so that is important to inform policy and certain decision making. And we know that in Jamaica, individual schools have power. The board makes a lot of decisions, so around school discipline and etc. And so that is important. So that is not coming from a centralized government, the Ministry of Education. And so that is important now, how a school board is going to see this in terms of changes. And so when you're going to look at the policy, you really have to think carefully about the solution, right? And this is something that I am learning now with my own research, in the sense where you can create a policy that creates further
Problems.
problems, right? And so we don't want to be problematizing, what ought to be solutions. And so that is important. And so if it is that we're serious about this, we need to think carefully. We need to talk to the different teachers, because sometimes we tend to have decision coming from the top down, so top down. And so we need to have that. We need to think about it logically. So we need to have that research. We need to have those conversations. We need to talk with the students, because they're the biggest stakeholders
I agree with
in
you.
all of
Yeah.
this. And
We
so
did mention that, but that's a
definitely.
big one.
So
Yeah.
it's not just us thinking about what should be,
Or
but
what they're interested in.
what they're interested in, but the students actually. And so, I mean, when they come grade 7, I guess some students are still trying to find themselves. But at grade 9, there's where you can do some research to see, okay, these students are going to go to grade 10. This is where the C6 syllabus, starts. And so we want to ensure that we are supporting them accordingly based on their needs, based on their interests. And so if it is that we can get these things done before pushing our students into different areas, that would be important. Because remember, some students, when they come into the high schools, they're streamed into classes, and some students don't benefit from some subjects.
That's true.
And so it is important. And then you have some students in the lower stream who might be good at a 1 or 2 subject, but might not be good at some subjects.
Yeah.
And in those areas, they're forced to be behind, because generally those classes are behind, because you consider them, not there in terms of just getting to that CSEC level. So they will teach them the city, is it city and guilds?
Yeah.
Like the city and guilds syllabus, or that kind of thing. And so it is important for us to understand those different contexts. One size does not fit all. I'm just looking here in the live chat, not seeing any comments. So welcome if you're just tuned in. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you have any comments or questions, you can leave them in the live chat. Please remember to give this video a like, share with friends and family members, and encourage them to come on over and be a part of this Voices in Education community. We're wrapping up right now.
Yeah, but just before you wrap up, if you have any questions, or want us to shed any clarity on anything that we have discussed, or just to have your say, you could just put that in the
Comment section.
comment section, so we could go through it, and we could do a part 2, maybe, just to
Definitely
deal with some of the comments that you have posted, so we could read your comments out, discuss it. And I'm sure that there are many things that we have spoken about that you agree with, or you might not agree with, but we are sure that you have so much input that you could add on this topic. So we are really excited to see what you have. And
Yeah, definitely. We'd love to hear from you. So share. And we can always talk again. And we like to talk. I like to talk once I have the company. And so I'll definitely do that. So not to lose sight of this, August occasion. Not to lose sight of the Reggae Girls, I just want to just bring it back right there where we started, full circle. It's definitely an August occasion. So again, I just want to congratulate the Reggae Girls for making us so proud. You're history makers, you're world shapers, you're women, and this is so much empowerment for us as women, for young girls looking on and just wanting to occupy that space sometime in the future.
Boy,
And so
you touched on something that
you're not going to leave here this
no, we're
afternoon.
gonna leave here, but I have to say this. This is awesome representation for females, because I know that it has been a struggle for females to be, to be participating in competitions like that. Sometimes they don't have the teams or they don't have the competition to
Or the resources,
or the
they're not
resort support it.
supported
That's true.
as how their male counterparts are supported.
Precisely. So, like, this is a huge moment. This is a huge step going forward as it relates to female soccer.
Definitely. I'll say football because that's what I'm used to.
Just
But
trying to be general with it because, don't want to confuse the public at all. But we know when we
we
talk about football, what we're talking about in
definitely
Jamaica.
Jamaican football. Jamaican football. But definitely, I am so proud. We're so proud of the Reggae Girls. We can't say thank you enough. You have made us proud. Like when we look at some of the big countries that went home before them, like
Yeah.
USA, Canada,
Brazil.
Brazil, France,
Yeah.
Colombia, not Colombia, my God,
Well,
not
Colombia.
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 Colombia went home, but I'll say kudos to Colombia, felicitaciones. We do this on a Saturday,
Oh boy, she's
Spanish,
boasting on me now. Boasting on me.
Spanish Saturday. And I heard or I read that Colombia is the only South American team left in the competition. So I guess if Colombia knocked out Jamaica, why not? Colombia all the way. But first, Reggae Girls, you rise up. Woo! They did take that place. Well, we need a song for the Reggae Girls. This is the same song they use for everybody, right? Think so. I'm not sure, but that's a nice song. But Strength of a Woman, Shaggy. I could play that right now. Siri, can you play Strength of a Woman by Shaggy? So that YouTube does not copyright me. Just happy to be Jamaican. I'm definitely one proud Jamaican, and I believe that makes two of us.
Yeah, definitely. And it came at the right time to
Definitely.
on our independence celebration. That's
That was
totally
awesome.
amazing. That was like the icing on
I
the
told
cake.
you it's an August
Yeah,
occasion.
definitely an August occasion.
So we're definitely happy, and please leave your congratulatory comments in the comment section. And let's just be proud, and we're looking forward to some other sporting events. So the World Championships are coming up in just another week. I think it will begin on the 19th
I'm not
of
sure when that will
August.
start.
19th of August until the 27th. And we're looking forward to, more greatness, this time from men and women, male and female. So
Definitely. Yeah. The men are a bit behind now, I would say, in terms of the achievement, but I know that we're going to come back
but
with bigger and better.
the women are stepping up and stepping out and claiming their place, rightful place. And let's continue to support our Reggae Girls, and let's just continue this journey until the next World Cup, and let us not forget them. And we're hoping to see, just a stronger, I guess, a better journey moving forward.
Yes, yes, we need to rally around them more. I will make that a point of duty to rally around them more because we need the support, and the support and the motivation creates expectation, and these girls have exceeded the expectations of all of us. So we just need to give them that support to push them into the quarterfinals next time or beyond.
Beyond, we're looking beyond into the finals, definitely. Ruben, thank you so much for joining me for this chat this afternoon. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate all your insights and the value that you bring to this program this afternoon. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I guess it's almost full time now. So I guess the referee had the whistling inside her mouth.
Definitely, definitely. So it's pretty much where, well, I would say full time, extra time. Extra time, extra time. So thanks again for tuning in. Please remember, if you're watching this video after this live, please remember to just leave your comments, like, share, and hit that subscription button as well. Remember, you can bank on it. You can put 1 million subscribers on it. Yes, come on over and subscribe, hit that subscription button, and
remember to comment. We're looking forward to those comments.
definitely remember, bank on it. Voices in Education is a safe space where we share and learn from each other. Thanks again for tuning in. See you in the next live.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Take care, everyone. Blessings.